Thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to talk. This is actually a joint presentation with one of my students. She is doing MA and this is part of the dissertation that she is writing. So we will be very hopeful that we get a lot of comments and areas where we can improve our or rather she can improve her research. Okay, yeah, so we are good to go now. Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, we are going to talk about the patterns of reduplication. We'll be emphasizing on the templatic elements and what happens with the phonological features. So both of us are part of the advanced phonology group and the title of the paper is Reduplication, the template and the fixed melodic material in Assamese. So we'll be talking about these two aspects in regards to examples that are seen in Assamese reduplication. So as we are already aware of, these are some certain common knowledge in regards to reduplication, that it refers to a word formation process that repeats all or part of the word or phrase. So on the basis of that, we have full or partial reduplication patterns in languages. The range of what can be copied, how reduplication interacts with other morphemes and phonological processes, and the sorts of meanings that can be expressed by reduplication all factor into making the study of reduplication a very vast area in linguistic investigation and areas of different interface resources. Reduplicant, on the other hand, the crux of this particular word formation process, or more to say morphophonological process, refers to the exponent of the reduplicative morpheme, while the base of the portion of the word that supplies the copied portion. So base is something which supplies the material or the portion that are to be reduplicated in the reduplicant. In most of the languages, for the most part, reduplicant and base are adjacent. So they cannot be, or they are not generally. It's a cross-linguistic observation in languages that both the base and the reduplicant are adjacent to each other. So there should not be or must not be any intervening syllable or any other part of word. For example, in this particular language from CIIL, Lucio said a word with CVC prefix meaning work all about. So as you can see, this part has been reduplicated and only the schwa is added at the end to give it a different kind of a meaning, to work all about. So these are things that languages manifest in different ways. This is primarily because the base contains signals that are eligible to be copied in the reduplicant. How it is defined plays a role in predicting the range of what can be copied. So this is another phonological aspect to the process of reduplication. So in phonological aspect, we look into what is the base. First, to identify the base, and then what are the segment qualities which can be copied from the base to the reduplicant, and etc. etc. There are certain interface areas, and as we all are aware of, that reduplication is something that is categorized as one of the most interesting interface areas, because it not only talks about phonology, where we discuss the templatic or melodic material, or we also talk about the sonority profile, how it actually is interacting with the reduplicating structure. We not only talk about the syllable, even from a morphophonological aspect, whether it is a total type of reduplication or a partial type of reduplication, those things are taken into account. In morphology, there are relations of reduplication towards eco-formation and expressive formations, because those two are two other related phenomena which cannot be discussed without the help of understanding the reduplication pattern of a language. I'm not saying that reduplication is to has two different types, equiformation and expressive. They are totally different processes, morphological processes, but then they have interacting effects on each other. Then from the structural point of view, syllabic, whether a syllable is reduplicated, whether a morpheme is reduplicated, or whether an entire word is reduplicated, those things are also taken into account from a structural point of view. Then a morphosyntactic point of view gives us information about whether there is a verbal reduplication, adjectival reduplication, adverbial or nominal. So languages choose some of them or all of them, or none of them. Some languages do not have any reduplicative structure, but then some have all of them. Assamese is a language where most of the word categories or grammatical categories can be reduplicated. Then from a semantic point of view, we also see the sense of perception, a state of mind, manner of action, modality, plurality. So these things from a meaning point of view are also reflected in the reduplicative structure. So those were the interface area. Now in our paper, we are going to talk about phonological aspects of reduplication only, because this is part of a dissertation that is being written in a group that is advanced phonology. So our main focus pertains to phonological aspects. This paper tries to introduce current approaches while analyzing phonological aspects of reduplication, and while doing that, there are issues like segmental identity and prosody. There is necessarily some interaction with morphology, because morphology is something that you cannot get away when we discuss reduplication. So then within these phonological aspects, there are three important factors that are taken into account: segmental identity, or whether there is no segmental identity between the reduplicant and the base. Interestingly, in Assamese examples, we have seen that segments are identical to each other in regards to their quality of the sounds that are reduplicated. Then the second aspect is the imperfectly invariant shape of the reduplicant. And then another important aspect is to identify the base of the reduplication. Now, to talk about the segmental identity between reduplicant and base, while reduplicant segments are typically identical to their corresponding segments in the base, regular or exceptional phonological processes can interfere with perfect copying. So, in some certain languages, other phonological processes can also play a role in determining whether there will be a perfect copying of the base to the reduplicant, or there is some kind of disjunction between the in regards to the copying mechanism. Sometimes the lack of segmental identity is due to the neutralization of a contrast of the reduplicant, or not, but not the base. So sometimes the reduplicant structure undergo certain type of neutralizations, for example, voicing neutralization in a coda position, or aspiration neutralization, or any other unmarked, marked structure get neutralized in the unmarked position, etc. So those are some other aspects or processes which may involve while determining the reduplication from phonological point of view. While doing that, there are two types of theories. One is correspondence theory, that has been proposed by McCarthy and Prince's prosodic morphology, and this particular theory is an influence by optimality theory, one of the most fashionable theory that is currently in the focus to discuss about phonological aspects of languages. Not only phonology, but many other areas of linguistics can be dealt with OTA framework. Within this correspondence theory, which had been proposed by McCarthy and Prince, we have correspondence between input and output, that is I/O correspondence, or base and reduplicant correspondence, that is BR correspondence. So we are not going to show you all the details of this, but these are just the introduction of what is lying ahead in discussing the phonological aspects of reduplication. Another interesting framework that is that is there in discussing phonological aspects, grammatical category, which usually in the domain of root and pattern and reduplicative morphology are often expressed by invariant prosodic shapes or templates. The central aim of this program, known as the Proceeding Morphology Hypothesis, short form PMH, is that these templates are defined in terms of an authentic unit of prosody. So any unit like mora or syllable or food or an entire prosodic word can be the template for reduplication pattern. So we are in this paper, and when the paper is developed into her dissertation, we are going to talk about more detailed account of what portion has been templatically or templatic reduplication is happening, whether in mora or syllable or food or prosodic word, etc. The second aspect, phonological aspect, is that there are fixed segmentism, and there are two types of fixed segmentism. One is default segmentism, the other one is melodic overwriting. So in some cases, there is a melodic requirement to reduplicate a particular structure. In some cases, it's just by default certain segments are reduplicated. So these are certain definitions of these two types of this particular aspect. Okay. Then the third aspect of phonological aspect of reduplication is the cross-linguistic diversity while examining the shape of the reduplicants. So this is something that we have taken into account in this particular presentation. So some languages exhibit total reduplication of a root, and sometimes even an entire idiom or a phonological phrase. We have seen in Assamese total reduplication is in terms of the phonological word, not in terms of a syllable only. Okay, in case of total reduplication, but in partial reduplication, there are smaller than the prosodic word that gets reduplicated. Some languages also exhibit partial reduplication, in which the reduplicant can be a bisyllabic food, or a heavy syllable, or a light syllable, or just a single consonant. So we will see in our example what is being manifested. Okay. So these are certain examples from other languages and some other literature. And here are some earlier works that have been listed, where many people have been discussing reduplication in terms of its phonology morphology interface areas, which is our main area of discussion, as you can see on the screen. Then let me read this. The phonological aspect of reduplication number 3 has also some typological investigating properties, as I have shown in the previous slide. Those studies have investigated typological or cross-linguistic patterns or generalizations into the form and meaning of reduplication, which reveal that the shape of reduplicative morphemes is always the target of some sort, total copy or a fixed state, like whether a syllable like CV structure or a CVC structure. These observations about partial reduplication are particularly striking because these studies found that there are no languages that have authentic syllable copying. Such a system would have a CV reduplicant if the base begins with an open syllable, and CVC if it begins with a closed syllable. So this is something interesting because this has been observed in typological point of view. Then we go to the main crux of this paper, where we first discuss full reduplication in Assamese, and then we talk about the partial pattern. So in Assamese, nouns, verbs, classifiers also can be reduplicated, and we will see in the next few slides. So definite classifiers can thus be reduplicated to indicate mass indefiniteness, to function as adverb of manner, etc. So this is one of the area which is very interesting to look at, because classifiers are something anyway. Assamese is a classifier rich language because it has got a language context separation with TB languages for a prolonged period of time, and from then Assamese has developed a rich classifier linguistic system. So now in classifiers, they can be reduplicated totally, full reduplication is seen. For example, you can see all these examples. So in the first case, you can see hota, hote, tails. So tails is the noun which is for the word for blood in Assamese. Kapur, which means cloth, etc. So actually hota is a reduplication or some kind of classifier. But then when you say quantity after quantity of blood has been released, or it has erupted from an injury or something, you can say you can actually reduplicate the entire classifier totally, fully. So these are certain examples, as you can see on the screen. These are very interesting to look at, because there are, as you can see on the screen, again at the right side, you can see CVC and this particular vowel is CVC and CV.C, and then A and A at the end. So entirely they are copied from each other. Sometimes there is a variation that in this case you can see at the end there is a A, because the root itself has an A. But if it ends with CVC, like this particular classifier is actually ZAP, CVC. So if the base ends with a CVC structure, closed syllable, then only A is found in both the cases. But if the root itself ends with A, so CV structure, then it will retain the original A, and then the reduplicative structure gets only A. So these are certain patterns, and also here you can see it's a trisyllabic structure, CV, and then here is A, and in this reduplicant you can see at the end there is an A. And in these two cases you can see at the end there are diphthongs, ghotiye. So those are retained because those are part of the base structure. Now there are some more examples. So as you can see, these are all giving meanings like adverbial phrases. So CV, which is the base, is reduplicated totally because it's a full reduplication process. So CV is totally reduplicated to give us lahe, to express the manner of adverb, that is slowly, and etc. So you can see all these are manner adverbs. Then you have some more examples like involving body part. So pet, which is like inner side of the belly, or mukh, which is mouth, or the face, kan, which is for ear, etc. Those can also be reduplicated. So for pet, I can say there is no A at the end because it's a CVC structure, the base. But when it is reduplicated, the A has been inserted. Okay. So that is interesting to look at the pattern. Okay, so the template of full reduplication in Assamese is something like this. So we have just found out that these are the certain templates which are operative in case of full reduplication in Assamese. Generally, the A marker is used for ergativity in Assamese, but when it is used in case of reduplicative forms, it signifies adverbial nature in the language. These are certain patterns of partial reduplication, and these are the template on the top of every slide. There are templates written. So I'll be sharing this slide with the organizers. So in case somebody is interested, then do that. Okay. So I give. So these are certain conclusions that we have done on the basis of the preliminary studies. That there are plural interpretations that can be obtained by reduplicating classifier, but that is on total total reduplication, and adverbial constructions are generally made, which is also present in Assamese. This is very common in cross-linguistic typological feature as well. And the template of full reduplication depends mostly on the structure of the base, and in most cases of partial reduplication, the reduplicant initiates with the sounds like sa, za, ta, and ma. So first three, as you can see, all are alveolar, and ma is the only bilabial sound, that is sonorant, can be the part of the reduplicant structure. So these are the sounds which begins the reduplicant structures, and here are the references.